So, who wants to keg some beer? I do. Let's do this. All right, so welcome back. This is my first ever homebrewing video on the Homebrew Hobby channel. We are the third week of April. It's a Thursday morning, and it's snowing outside. So, sorry, having a coffee. Today, we're going to be kegging this lovely Irish red that I brewed about 4 weeks ago. I cold crashed it for a week thinking I was going to keg it earlier this week and realized I had no CO2 left in my cylinder. That's a whole other story. So for today, what we're going to need is our sanitizer, Star San, auto-siphon, I'll show you how that works, and this lovely little gizmo. You have to buy one of these. If it doesn't come with your auto-siphon, it's like $2. I'll show you how that works. And lastly, well, not lastly, but post-lastly, or pre-lastly, some hose. And lastly, my Cornelius keg, or ball lock in my case. All gonna go together to provide me some lovely Irish ale. So, let's get to it. All right, so very straightforward. This is what I do. So I have my ball lock, auto siphon, piece of hose, and this is what I do. You go ahead and do it however you like. I just shove everything in here. Make sure the hose is pointed upwards so that I can get the Star San into it. And I literally just make sure I get some Star San into the auto siphon, into the hose, all over the outside. Give it a good shake. Back into my Star San jar. Here's my hose. Pour the extra back into the keg. So the point of all of this is just to ensure that anything that ever touches the beer is sanitized. And all that means is that we're trying to make sure that there are no nasties that get into our beer. Whoop, doing this backwards. All right, so there's my first goof for today. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to make sure I'm going to get a little bit of the Star San. Okay. As you can see, it's going up through the hose. Run it through the hose. Just do that for a few seconds. Let it all drain out. All we need. So now, at this point, first of all, I got Star San all over my hands. Not everyone can deal with that. For me, it's never bothered me. Okay, so here's my hose. Nice and Star San. This and this guy. Everyone's happy. All right, so now I'm going to set those on clean surface that I have over here. Normally I would never set them down, but I'm running out of space with the camera and whatnot, so I'll give them a last spray. So now all I'm going to do is the Star San that got into the keg. Give it a good once around. Whoop, so it gets all the surfaces, and just pour it right back into my jar. And as the magic saying goes, do not fear the Star San. Or the bubbles. I don't remember. All right, now it's just this simple. One end of the pipe, the hose, goes onto the auto-siphon. The other one goes into the keg. Now, this nifty guy, what it does is you snap it on there and allows you to put it on the neck of the carboy, and it keeps it in place. Now, what I've just forgotten when I made that little announcement earlier about you need this, is that this hose, this pipe, I think is a 3/4 inch, which is bigger than the previous one I had, which does not fit with this piece all that well in there. It does, but not well. So the 1/2 inch, I think, fits really well, and it keeps it in place. And what it means is you don't have to muck with it while it's working. But we'll see what happens. All right. So we just shove that right in there. Star sand and everything. And what I try to do is get the hose. So I've got about a 4 or 5 foot length of hose, and I've actually got my keg raised a little bit on a chair so that the hose touches the bottom of the keg, so that when it's pouring into the keg, it's not oxygenating and getting all kinds of bubbles into it, because that can affect the taste. So I've heard or read. So now just give this a couple of pumps. You can see that lovely nectar working its way. That's all there is to it. Now we wait. Whoop, okay, so when it does that, just means I need to drop the level a little bit. But because it's a dark beer, I can't necessarily see where the end of this thing is. And what I don't want is for it to be so deep into the beer that I'm sucking all the yeast that has, you know, sitting down here. So every so often we'll drop it down a little bit. And as I see, so the keg right now is approximately half full, which makes sense because I'm, you know, halfway done here. What I'll do eventually is I'm just going to tip the carboy a little bit just to get it to settle into the corner and get as much of that goodness as I can. And we're already halfway done. Probably not the best way to do this, because there are tons of horror stories about people who have sliced themselves to pieces using broken carboys. Usually, I carry my carboys around in a plastic milk crate. But because I had cold crashed this one, it was in my refrigerator, and the milk crate doesn't fit along with the carboy. So in this one instance, I don't have a milk crate. But typically, I don't handle the milk crate, the carboy directly. I use a milk crate to save myself that trouble. It's a lot easier to carry too, and they cost like $5 if you go to a milk distributor. All right, so the carboy is almost full. All right, so as far as I'm concerned, I'm done. And let me just see if you can see. Beer is right to the edge. So now we're done with this part. Moving on to the next part. Okay, so the next part of this is to get the posts back onto the keg. I've already done the in, or the gas, and this is the out. Okay. Now, what we want to do is okay. Here's the poppet. It's called a poppet. See how it's got rubber around the edge? What I'm going to do is I got some Star Sand here. I'm just going to give it a good spray. Okay. And what I have here is some keg lube. It's essentially just Vaseline as far as I know, but it's, you know, like food safe. And you just put a tiny little dab around the poppet. And what it does is it helps it make a seal to keep the liquid inside, which is what we want, right? And give it another little spray. Wipe my hands. And I'm just going to screw that right back onto the keg there. Now, I'm going to tighten it with a ratchet in a second. Now, same thing. O-ring, keg cover, I don't know what the hell it's called. Give them a good spray down. Spray bottle costs $1 at the dollar store. Okay. Lube. Make all the jokes you want. Okay. And what I do is I put some on the top and bottom of the O-ring. So I just basically go like this, because what's going to do is it provides a seal between the cap and the underneath of the keg, or the lip of the keg. Now I get to fight with the O-ring. All right, so slide that on there like that. And, all right, so now all I'm going to do is just put this thing right in there. Put it in on an angle, pop it back, pull it back up, and shove it in place. Now, we're not done yet. One more step to go. All right, so now we need to purge any of the air that was in the top between the cap and the actual beer. And what we're going to do is I have my 10-pound CO2 tank. Pop that. Whoop, get the coffee out of the way. Oh, see, almost made a boo-boo. Need to ratchet. Where's my ratchet? Where's my ratchet? Always have your tools ready. All right, 1 or 2 turns. The other one's already good. Okay, let's try this again. Gas in. In is on that side. You can hear it. All right, now what you can do is take your star sand and just spray just a smidge, okay, over the lip, and just see if it bubbles anywhere. If it's bubbling, it means you're losing some of your CO2, or your air is being pushed out, your CO2 is being pushed out, and you don't have a good seal. Now, quick release, refills, quick release, refills. At that point, the CO2 ought to have pushed all the air out, and we're done. Now, all we have to do is put this in the refrigerator, kegerator, keezer, what have you, typically for about 48 hours at 30 psi, or if you're really patient, you can leave it for 7 days at 10 or 12 psi, and it does the same job. I find that the 48-hour method is the one I like to do. Typically, the first day or two when you're serving, I find it has a bit of a bite, for lack of a better term, but I can deal with it. So there you go. Now, I'm going to rinse this out with some high-pressure warm water. Don't use hot water in a carboy. You will discover bad things will happen. So warm water, and then I'm going to pour maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons of OxyClean, fill it up to the top, and just let it sit for about 48 hours, and 99% of the time it comes out perfectly clean. And if it doesn't, I got a trick for you. this is a wine decanter cleaner. And essentially what it is it's magnetic. You put this inside the carboy, run this one down the outside, and whatever piece the OxyClean didn't get at, gold. So there you go. We just kegged an Irish ale. So I hope you liked my video. Do me a favor, subscribe, press that little subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and maybe leave a comment. Let me know if I did something wrong, if I missed a step, if I'm just out in left field. And hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you, and enjoy.